What's good, everybody? It's your boy Tico on Blitz, back at again with another video. And today we are going to be taking a look at the brand new Tier 8 French Collector Heavy, the Sentinelli. It has been 5 months and Wargaming has dropped a brand new vehicle. Within the 5-month range is normally at times where they would have like a certain paywall limit to implement new tanks. But surprisingly enough, they have released this vehicle brand new in crates, never sold before. This is actually quite crazy. But the only problem is 45,000 gold to get your hands on the vehicle for guarantee, 30 charms like always, and your standard 5% drop chance. So what does the Sentinel have going for it? Well, the front of its turret has upwards of 250, and the front of its hull has upwards of 140. And to put that into a perspective, this is what the current armor profile looks like. You may think that on flat ground, there are a lot of troll spots, considering that the majority of the turret is going to be upwards of 259 to 260. The full-on gun mantlet is going to be about the same. The upper plate is going to be upwards of 272 to 266. And the side skirts right here are going to be about 246 to 251. You got a very tiny hatch on the roof to which you can overmatch upwards of 123 to about 115. And a big juicy lower plate as well that's upwards of 132. But when this vehicle is using its 7 degrees of gun depression, that is where the hatch is going to be no more, as it thickens the turret only to a minor bit, upwards of 272 as well. Which means if I'm loading my premium ammo, it's not going to make a difference whatsoever, as the turret is now thickened to 281. The thing that you can basically try to pen, which is about a 50-50, is these little side skirts right here, but you would need a fairly accurate gun in order to get the job done. This is a very similar design to what a Super Conqueror is. You got two little armored bits that surround these two little corner cutouts right here on the side of the gun mantlet, which means that if you are lucky enough to wedge the shell in the correct spot, then you are going to pen this vehicle surprisingly enough. It'll also make a difference for the upper plate, as it's now thickened to a substantial amount, upwards of 400. Which means if I'm loading my calibrated shells, it does open up the turret to a more substantial amount, upwards of 294 millimeters of premium penetration. So then what is lurking for the side of the vehicle? The side of the turret is upwards of 158 to 139, and then the full-on side is 133 to 92. And then for the rear, the back of the turret is 55, and then the full-on rear where the engine deck is located is upwards of 53. This vehicle, surprisingly enough, has very good HE value, sitting at 73 millimeters, which means that you are able to cut through the back of this, and you are able to cut through the back, or the top side of the engine deck to be more precise. Along with that, the vehicle carries 2,067 damage per minute, quite okay in many ways, shape, or form, with a magazine reload time of 14.49 seconds and an 8-second intra-clip reload time in between its shells. So it's going to be more on the balance side, kind of the similar along the lines with an M4 Yo, having 4 shells in its clip and a 7-second intra-clip reload time and about 14 seconds of an individual reload, which is basically similar to what this vehicle has lurking for it as well. In terms of the penetration, it's actually quite solid, having 238 on the standard, 294 on the premium, and 73 on the high explosive. Pretty beefy amount if I'm not going to be mistaken. It also has 350 average damage on its standard, 300 on the premium, and 440 on the high explosive. To which, if you want to increase those numbers by a substantial amount, then this is actually quite surprising that this vehicle carries tungsten for an autoloader, which is something that you hardly see lurking for these types of vehicles. And as well, in terms of the individual maneuverability, you go 32 forward and 15 in reverse, and you have a fairly solid power to weight of 17 even while at it. So the first time that I ever saw this vehicle, it kind of looks similar in shape of its individual design of that of the Tier 8 Progetto 54. I mean, the Progetto is going to be a little bit of a more troll target to phase, considering that when it's used hold down, it's got a degree more of gun, or actually it's got 2 degrees more of gun depression than what this vehicle has going for it, and it will have turret levels that would exceed the limits to what this vehicle would have to offer, which means premium is not going to be an issue when using this thing's hold down capabilities, considering that it has 7 degrees of gun depression, but you could still do a fairly solid job with holding certain flanks and holding off ridge lines pretty solid with what this vehicle has lurking for it. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit lackluster on the aiming time and dispersion on the other hand as well, due to the fact that it has above a 4.8 second of aiming time with 0.26 dispersion. I mean, it's not going to be above or anything average or anything spectacular in terms of aiming your shells exactly to where you're aiming at, but that's basically just for the fact that having such a gun with that level of aiming time and dispersion can be a little bit problematic, and you would basically have to wait until your aiming reticle is decreased to the full capacity to where it cannot withhold it. So let's go ahead and plop on into our first game then, and let's see how we can fare well till then. And here we are in game number 1. Let's see what they got. Another Sentinel, apparently. A T-32 and IS-2 shielded. That seems to be all they got after that. So, let's go ahead and lurk our way over here and then go over and hold off this side. This is a fairly popular spot that I like to go to with this tanks like these on this side of the map. So, let's go ahead and mosey our way through. Looks like we got another Sentinel on our team along the lines of that too. So, here we come. We're going to mosey our way right down over here. Let's see what we can do. We got the IS-2 shielded. We also got the other Sentinel off to the side right over there. Looks like they might have somebody that might poke along the lines over here too. So, we're just going to kind of sit back right over here. We got a T-49 that's playing fairly aggressive by the looks of it. All right. We also got the Sentinel off to the side. We got a T-32. It looks like he's going to be lurking on over there. All right, we got the Sentinel coming on up. We got a clear shot into his tank right there. Beautiful shot for 321. All right, so we got the IS-2 shielded off to the side as well. We also got a T-43 who's lurking off towards the side right there. I don't know what that shell was. Well, apparently it looked like that my teammates seem to have gotten in the way, unfortunately enough. So we're going to go ahead and fire in and finish off that T-43. I had no idea what bro's plan was apart from his behalf. So we're going to reload our full-on clip once again. And we're going to head right on over and see what we can do as apart from these enemies right over here. We got the IS-2 shielder. We're going to move up just a tiny bit. See what we can do in terms of overworking these enemies right over here. Got the T-32 off to the side. Let's go ahead and aim in a shot on his lower plate. And yep, there is the contributing factor to why this gun's aiming time and dispersion levels are absolutely atrocious as apart from that. And the fact that you gotta wait for your aiming reticle to decrease down to its full capacity. So we got the enemy Sentinel off to the side. We're gonna go ahead and aim in a heat shell. A little bit of a low roll, but it's still a pen in any way, shape, or form, which is actually quite good apart from our behalf. Alright, so we're just going to be reloading our clip once again. We got the IS-2 shielded. We also got the Sentinel off to the side. We got the T-32. He's going to get a tap into me, but I can honestly care less. We also got the IS-2 shielded off to the side right there. And we get a nice tap for 343 into his vehicle. Got the T-28 off to the side. He gets a nice tap into my vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and fire in a heat shell. And again, missing that one, unfortunately enough. So, got the Sentinel off to the side. We also got the IS-2 shielded. Let's go ahead and see if we can maybe get a nice tap into the Sentinel right over here. Unfortunately, hesitating myself once again. So I'm just going to continuously back on up then, because I do not want to get kerblunkered by these enemies. So we're going to go all the way down on the bridge right over here. And we're just going to wait to reload our clip once again. We got the T-32 off to the side. Let's go ahead and aim in a nice solid tap into his vehicle if he does end up poking, which he does. Observation device broken. That is stuff that we love to see. Alright, so we got the IS-2 shielded again. Let's go ahead and see if the shitter's going to poke. Otherwise, we got the AMX behind us, so we're going to go ahead and get the clear into his vehicle real quick. And then we're just going to continuously back on up. But before I do so, we got the enemy Sentinel right off to the side. Let's go ahead and see if we can tap into him. Got the IS-2 shielded once again. Let's go ahead and aim a 298 slap into the side of his vehicle. Beautiful stuff. Alright, so we're reloading our full clip once again. Looks like this might be a loss apart from our behalf, as it looks like that these enemies are clearly deteriorating us one by one. Got the T-28 off to the side once again. We also got the T-32. Let's see who's going to be the unfortunate one to poke as apart from that. We got the enemy T-28. We're going to fire a heat shell on him real quick before we die. And that's unfortunately going to be our first loss of the day. We did 2,200 damage, but it really just goes to show that this gun can be a little bit rat in any way, shape, or form, but at the same time, it still can be a good vehicle to hold off certain flanks due to the level of turret armor that it features. So we're going to be starting off with a bang with a loss, but that's totally okay. We still did 2,200 damage, possibly did carry our team in that aspect, which is unfortunate. Yeah, this was not the best result as apart from what this team had going for it, but that is apparently just my luck and the fact that this game is deteriorating. 2284, able to block 620, instant top on the team in that aspect. It's actually a fairly solid result for what this vehicle has going for it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and make up for that matter in our second game, see what we can do as apart from that. We basically did our job right there, just holding off that flank to the best that we can. It's unfortunate that my team was deteriorating one by one. They were all just sitting in the back in their pretty little heavies, thinking that they can get away with every aspect. This vehicle is not meant to be a really good holding vehicle, especially for the fact because, like you saw, as apart from like facing off against the owned vehicle, that you can overmatch the turret with premium ammo. That's a very problematic factor to where if you're something in let's say a T-77 or maybe even, like I said, the Progetto 54, you can get away with more troll bounces in that way, shape, or form. The only problem is that you got less DPM levels, so that's kind of the takeaway factor that contributes to those vehicles as opposed to something fair and balanced like this one, for example. So here we are lurking on into game number 2 then. Of course, it is going to be on Canal. Let's see what they got. They got a T-34, an Annihilator, and a Tiger 1 in terms of what they have for their heavies. So what we are going to do is that we are going to go on over towards the far right side and see what we can do in terms of holding that position off over here. Alright, so we're going to mosey our way on through. I'm really hoping that we don't get outspotted, which would be the most unfortunate aspect as apart from playing this map. So we're just going to go far wide right over here, just in case if that happens to be the case. Alright. Alright, looks like that we are doing fairly well so far. We have not been spotted just yet. Our allies are in the base, unfortunately enough. So let's see what's going to be lurking upon the lines over here if anybody ends up being spotted. So we're going to stay in my favorite spot right here. We got the Stritzbong 81. We also got the Annihilator apparently camping heavies. We love to see them. So we're just going to go ahead and aim in a nice tap for 299. Could care less if it's a low roll as long as it's a pen. We're going to wait to reload our next shell in our clip. Annihilator's no longer spotted, which is unfortunate. We also got the T-34 off to the side. We're going to plop on our tungsten, get a 381 slap into his vehicle, and then we're going to reload once again. And we're going to guarantee another pen for this guy. If otherwise, he's just going to mosey his way on downward, which is the unfortunate part. So what I'm going to do is I am going to... they got their T-28 prototype spotted off to the side. Let's go ahead. Can we spot this player? Unfortunately, we cannot. But the T-28 or the T-34 is getting absolutely obliterated, and he's out of the game, which is good. So we're going to continue moseying our way over here. We got the Annihilator and we got the T-28 prototype actually spotted out in the open. Got the side of his turret exposed, and there we go. 325 slap into the side of his turret. And then we're reloading our clip once again. So in another 7 seconds, we'll have another 3 shells ready for us. So 3, 2, 1. We got the side of the T-28 prototype again for 352. And then we got the side of the Annihilator right over here as well. Well, at the slight second, but he is going to be maybe lurking on through. Alright, let's see if he's going to poke. Unfortunately, it looks like that he's not. Well, we also got the RU-251 off in the far back side of the map. We're going to wait for our aiming reticle to decrease all the way and get a 380 tap into his vehicle. Alright, so then reloading in another 3 seconds. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a nice tap into that enemy Stritzbong. Beautiful. For 304. Alright, we got the ISU off in the back. Alright. Looks like that these enemies are pretty much barricading themselves for the time being. So we're reloading again. We got another clear shot, or we did at the moment. We also got the ISU. Looks like he's in a mosey on forward as well. All right, we got the Tiger 1 off to the far side too. All right, let's see who's going to be the unfortunate victim of poke. Actually, these are the last 3 remaining enemies left, so we're going to go ahead and mosey our way right along over here. Alright, Tiger 1 is spotted right off over to the side right there. Unfortunately, we cannot spot him. Alright. So we're going to mosey our way right along over here. This RU is possibly going to be a little bit of a pest, as he is still going to try to camp over on the side of the map. So we're going to mosey our way right along through over here. And we are going to see if we can deteriorate the rest of this player's hit points. We got all 3 shells that are present in our clip, so... Looks like this guy is pretty much just going to stay put over here for the time being, but he's going to be in it for a surprise if he does stay over on that side of the map. Well, the base cap is going up, unfortunately, apart from his behalf, so I possibly will not have enough time in order to see if I can get some taps into him, but it is a victory, so that's really all that matters as apart from that. And we were able to hit our shells directly to where we were aiming at for the most part, and that is going to be another 2,000 damage game. And that will put us second on the team, barely squeezing right on into the second spot. Alrighty then, so we're going to lurk on our way into game number 3 then and see how we can fare well. So for having fairly balanced stats, it's not really highly expected to get those high damage games out, as you're basically only there to be in that of a support vehicle for the most part. You're basically there just to hold off ridge lines, you're basically there to rely on your 8 seconds of intra-clip reload time, dumping out 300 to 400 damage with your tungsten rounds for the most part, and basically able to get the job well done in support of your team for the most part. Alright, so we are going to be lurking our way into game number 3, and let's see if we could do just as good as a result as apart from that. But my luck with the Q system has been god-awful lately, and it's been taking over about a couple minutes in order to find a game, but that is just my luck apart from Wargaming's behalf, so... Oh, okay, that's perfect. I didn't even have to do a cutscene there, which is good. So let's see what they got. They got a IS and a T-29. Looks like 2 Tier 7 heavies as apart from that. Well, we got 2 Tier 8 heavies. Oh, boy. And a Tier 7 heavy, too. Oh, this does not look good apart from their behalf. So, what we're going to do is that we're going to lurk on over towards this side of the map right over here. And let's see if these guys are potentially going to poke on outwards over towards this flank. So, we're going to mosey our way up over here. And then I am going to do a fairly aggressive poke to see if anybody's going to be lurking around this little corner right over here. Alright, so we are just waiting. Let's see, anything that's going to poke. Probably by the looks of it, it does not happen to be the case, surprisingly enough. So, we're going to continue moving upward just a tiny little bit. We got the T-30 or T-29 spotted off towards the side right over here, so we can potentially go right on in and get a nice tap into his rear. We're going to plop on our tungsten while at it. And actually, we got the side of the J Panther 2. Beautiful, solid tap into his vehicle. We got the STG also spotted off to the side. So, not going to take the risk in hitting him, but we also got the Titan right there for 402. There we go. Fairly solid tap into his vehicle. Got the T-28 HTC off to the side as well, and it looks like I'm going to get tunneled by the T-29 along the lines of that too. We also got the J Panther 2. I'm just going to rely on my teammate to finish him off, but we are going to be getting a nice bounce into the T-28 HTC, which is totally alright. So we're going to back on up then. Oh, I would have wanted to take the hit for my teammate, but I got you, bro, so you're all good. So, I'll go ahead and take the hits for my teammate because I am a W teammate. So, we got the T-28 HTC once again. Nice tap for 300 into his vehicle. We got the T-29 lurking off over towards the side. He only spotted my track wheel, which is unfortunate apart from his behalf. We got the T-28 HTC once again. Was not going to risk taking that shot, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lurk on upward just a tiny bit and get another solid tap into this T-28, and he does end up bouncing me as I did angle my vehicle in the right spot. So we got his lower plate once again exposed, and that is going to give us the opportunity to get 3 solid taps into his vehicle. So you can already see that the gun, sometimes when it wants to work, can feel quite nice, rolling 300 damage into your enemies just like that. Alright, so we're going to mosey our way on upwards then. We got the T-28 HTC. It looks like he's going to make another dire miss poke. So we're going to go ahead and lurk on up over towards him and get the clear into his vehicle. Beautiful stuff. And we got our tungsten back as apart from that too. So we're going to go ahead and lurk on over towards this enemy T-29. We got his rear exposed. 498. Wow, there's a good roll apart from that. Alright, and we got the enemy IS off to the side as well. And it looks like that he might... well, he is tunneling us at the moment, which is unfortunate. So, I don't really feel like losing 400 hit points in that aspect. Alright, he's not looking at us anymore. 342 right into his vehicle. Alright, a fairly solid result. Much better to what expected. So, we're reloading our clip once again. It looks like this T-29 wants to come in towards us as well. So, 3, 2, 1, and we are able to have the clipping potential to get another tap into him. We also got the IS off to the side. We're going to go ahead and get the finishing clear off into you first. And then we're going to wait to reload. I can honestly care less if this T-29 gets a solid tap into my vehicle. So we're going to reload. There we go. 305 slap into his vehicle. And we do have the DPM advantage with our intra-clip. So we're going to reload again. And there we go. Beautiful stuff. And now all that's left is the enemy T-28. He clearly is not looking at us at the moment. And we're reloading our full-on clip once again, and the Tiger gets a fairly solid clear into his vehicle, and that is our best damage result of 3,400 damage. I mean, At times when this vehicle's gun wants to work, its aiming time and dispersion levels can really lead you to the best outcomes, like this one, for example. When you're able to pull out some fairly solid results like this, that is an instant top on the team in that regards. So I do gotta say that this is a fairly balanced vehicle. It's not gonna be something that's gonna be quite crazy with the clipping potential that it features, but it's pretty much your average M4 Yo with 3 shells, and is able to dump out above 300 damage for the most part. It's going to be a fairly solid vehicle, especially since it's a new one that Wargaming implemented, which doesn't give you the reasonable cause to waste your life savings to get this vehicle upon entertainment purposes for what Blitz content creation has for when new vehicles come into the game. So hopefully you guys did end up enjoying today's video on the other hand, and if you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and make sure to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it, so you do not miss out on any new videos or streams, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace out, y'all.